worked supposedly in the military doing it and supposed to have an accuracy rate he was supposed to have. It's just everything he said.
Right.
It just never,
was wrong.
It was, Art told me a couple times when we talked about, he goes, I'm never going to have him back on ever again. And I'm not going to say anymore because I don't want to get sued, but he never hit anything. Never.
No.
But
never.
People, he scared a lot of people though.
I always go back to this. At one point, he was selling a whole series of DVDs that you could buy, right? And one of the ones that he was selling is how to predict the lottery numbers, right? Because it should be theoretically possible. It's like, okay, if you're going to tell me how to win the lottery, why haven't you won the lottery?
That's a good question. There it is, right there.
Yeah. If you're telling me how I can do it, why haven't you done it? If you're telling me how I can pick stocks, why haven't you done it? Why haven't you won enough in the lottery that you don't have to sell DVDs anymore? Right?
Yeah. That's the part. Again, like I said, I knew a family, that actually, like I said,
sure.
sold everything they had, everything, because they were such a panic. And I just remember trying to tell them, don't do it. They did it. Nothing happened. I mean, I'm sure if I knew somebody, how many other people did the same thing and freaked out and wanted to move to a certain part of Russia or, over to Australia, to,
right.
Escape the kill shot, which so far hasn't happened.
Yeah, thank God it never showed up. And I'm very happy about that. That's one time I was really happy that Ed Davis was wrong.
Well, I bet it bothered you for a while, though, didn't it? It did me.
Yeah. I'm a human being. I can be somewhat skeptical, but at the same time, it's like the possibility still exists, so I'm going to worry about it. Sure.
Yeah, I have to.
But at this point, though, I kind of look at it like this: if it's going to come, I have no control over it whatsoever. So just fry me. I can't stop it. And even if I go somewhere else, you're going to crispy fry half the earth. What's that going to do to the ocean and the climate and everything else? So I don't worry about that.
No. Another thing, and then we're going to get into you. They said that they recently discovered a black hole in our solar system. It's kind of like going everywhere. It's just kind of, floating around out there. I would be more concerned about that, than a lot of things. Yeah. Because if it's moving around in our solar system, how do we know that we're not its next meal?
That's right. That's a very good question. And how do we know that it's, we're not going to hit by a gamma ray burst or, there's so many things you could be scared of. I'd be more worried about a gamma ray burst than anything else.
Well, I'd be more worried about being in my car when my wife's driving it, to be honest with you.
I'm more worried about what am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, now let's talk about your books. What's out there? What you've done that's available?
Well, I publish Paranoia magazine. We are in the process of laying out our 66th issue. But 65 was a barn burner with a great article from Walter Bosley on the bell being seen in arrows in the 1890s. So issue 65 is awesome. I wrote a couple of books, The Secret Space Age and also The Cold War in Space. You can find out more about our scene on Facebook under Paranoia Magazine, paranoiamagazine.com. And we have a podcast, which is pretty fun. It's rad, and you should check it out. And I have a show now on the Roku, on the Paranoia channel on Roku, and also on YouTube called The Paranoid Traveler, where I go to weird, formerly classified bases and check them out, and I film it and tell you a little bit about what's going on. It's only about 10 or 15 minutes, kind of keep it simple. And I'm going to be a contact in the desert. So if you happen to be a contact in the desert, I'll be hanging around with the Ground Zero guys me and Walter. So come by, say hi, and let me know that you heard me on Night Dreams Theater.
Oh, wow. Night Dreams Talk Radio. But it could be a theater.
Oh, sorry, Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Yeah, after dark. Actually, after dark, too, because we don't do it in the light.
Okay, Night Dreams After Dark.
Yeah.
Tell me, Gary. I mean, we'll just go from there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could do that. And, also, I think people should tune into your podcast and all this stuff. And from what you're saying, it's doing really good. So, I mean, one thing about Olav, he knows a lot. And, like he mentioned, too, he's not going to, if he's not sure of something, he's not going to feed you a bunch of BS. I'll tell you that.
No, we're a BS-free zone. We try to keep it. I mean, I think we do what you do, and good broadcasters and interviewers do. We try to find interesting people with interesting ideas, and then we let them tell their story. And then, you'll hear us. I mean, there are times. We had a guy named Richard Allen Miller on, who's an amazing guy, did all kinds of crazy stuff, ESP experiments with Edgar Mitchell in orbit and all kinds of stuff. But, at one point he told us a crazy story, and I paused in the middle of it, and I said, "Excuse me? Now you've got to explain this to me because this makes no rational sense." And he tried, and he's all, "No, it doesn't make any rational sense to me either." Well, but, we do try to keep it legit.
Well, that's
but also let people tell their stories.
That's one advantage you have with a podcast. You can do that. I can't do that. Believe me, there are times on my show I would like to just stop and cut out a section, but there it goes. And you just.
Well, I try not to. We try not to cut anything out, but for us, I think Ron Patton is my co-host, and he's the editor-in-chief of Paranoia. And I think the thing that we try to do is that really we want people to tell their stories. And then, you can decide if you like it or not, but we don't, if it's a little out there, you'll hear us say, well, that seems a little out there.
Yeah, but some of that stuff that's out there actually turns out to be accurate down the road. So you really never know. That's what makes it exciting. It's entertainment. That's what I do. My show is nothing more than entertainment, and I let people come on and they tell their story, and it's up to the listeners if they want to buy it or not. That's as simple as that.
Exactly.
And that's what I like about you. I mean, you're well prepared. I can just... Before we go on there, we did make a decision. What are we going to talk about? I don't have to sit there and carry the show. I really hate getting a guest on where I have to carry the show for 2 hours, and I'm pulling my hair out.
Yeah. Well, I try to think that I'm prepared, and I don't talk about things I don't know. And, I'm very honest. Like, I'll tell you, if I have no idea what you're talking about, I'll say so.
Yeah.
I owe it to you, and I owe it to the listeners to not go down a path that I really can't speak to.
Now, have you ever seen a UFO close by?
Have I ever seen a UFO close by? I have. And it's funny. I have one time, very close. And it's one of those things. A lot of people, they say, because they've never seen one, they say, well, you've seen a UFO up fairly close. Why didn't you get a photo of it? Why don't you have video of it? Right? But in that moment, you don't think the same way you do when you're just like sitting in your backyard, right?
No, you don't.
I was the closest one I ever saw. I was driving home from work. I have a day job, just like everybody else. I was driving home from work, and it was very late at night. Because in my occupation, sometimes we have to do stuff very late at night. And so it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm driving along the freeway, and it's in a valley, and it's very dark. There's not a lot there. There's not a lot of houses or anything else. It's just really just a dark valley. And there were hills on either side. And there was like a fog layer. And I'd say the fog layer was probably 500 feet, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 feet. And and I'm driving, and I see this thing start to descend. And I live near a metropolitan area. Okay, I don't live out in the boonies somewhere. You know, there's 1 million people. Well, there's actually, I think, 3 million people that live in my general vicinity. Okay, so I'm driving along about 75. Won't admit to speeding. I was driving along about 75 miles an hour down this road, a highway, a 4-lane highway, and the lights, we have a lot of light pollution here. So the light from like Fremont and Hayward on the other side of the hills was lighting up the fog. And so it wasn't pitch black. It was actually somewhat lit. And I'm driving along, and I see something start to descend through the clouds. Now, that particular area can be on a flight pattern for Oakland International, right? And also for SFO. And so I thought to myself, well, it's just an airplane. And it's out in front of me. And as it's descending through the cloud layer, I can see that it's a triangle. It was a black triangle. And it was matte. It was like a matte black. And it kind of came through the clouds, but it was still in the fog, but part of the bottom was below the fog. And it made no noise. And at 700, 500, 700 feet, it should have been like shaking my car, right?
Normally,
and it was the size of the size of the 747, the wingspan, and it came down and it just went straight over me. And a lot of people, I thought to myself, I tried to fish around. I'm driving and I'm trying to fish around for my phone to take photos. But I couldn't really like engineer that to happen while I was driving. And everybody's always asking me, well, why didn't you pull over? And it's like, look, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm on a 4-lane freeway doing 75 miles an hour. I was convinced that if I had pulled over on the side of the road to actually film this thing, that somebody was going to hit me, because that happens here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially late at night when people are tired. And I thought, my safety is worth more than this amazing photo that I would get. But it was low enough that I could see the lines between them, the panels, the metal panels, like the sheets. I could see the lines between the different panels, and I could almost make out the rivets.
Okay. No markings or anything on it?
Nope. It was black, and it made no noise at all. None. It was silent.
That's pretty much the same thing that Art Bell and his wife, at the time saw. The same thing. Kind of like
no light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's our technology or their technology, but I tell you that when things like that happen, the same thing like when I had my encounter with the Bigfoot. When I talk about my story about it on the show, so many people say, well, you had a camera with you. And I go, you know what? I only thought one thing, get out of there. I didn't think about stopping and turning around. I didn't never even, in my mind, I didn't even have the camera. I had one thing in my mind. It was to get out of there. That's all. And unless somebody's in that situation, you don't think about that. Maybe there is somebody, but, maybe a war correspondent, but not a normal person.
No. I was thinking that I got to get out of here, and I was thinking that I think it was ours. I have a theory, but I was thinking I got to get out of here, and if I pull over, somebody's going to hit me. I've taken photos of stuff at distance, then it's not so frightening. But when it flies right over your head at like 500 feet or 700 feet or 1,000 feet, you're thinking to yourself, okie dokie, I'm getting out of here.
Well, I know I would.
I'm on the freeway by myself. There's nobody else on the highway with me. I just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, I stared at it. I'm looking at it while I'm driving, but I'm driving out of this area,
and when you went home to go to bed, I bet you couldn't sleep that night, could you?
No, I was very jittery. I was very, very jittery. Very jittery.
Yeah.
It's exciting. There's a kind of fight or flight response when you see something that close.
Well, like my encounter back in 76, I still don't know what it was. I know that when I pulled over, because what I saw was when we were driving with my first wife, that time, coming back from North Carolina, coming back towards Seattle. We were going through the desert in New Mexico, and they didn't have